So there's 720 hours in a month. If you spend 3 hours with me to batch your content, that's not even 10% of the hours in a month. And so I use that as a way to address the common objections that people have about batching. But you could also do that in your business as well.
Welcome to the Side Hustler Podcast, the podcast for women building their dreams while balancing work, family, and all the things. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, a wife, mom, marketer, and your side hustling friend here to teach you how to grow a brand that works for you and not the other way around. Whether you're a side hustling pro or just starting out, this is your safe place for real talk, actionable strategies, and the encouragement you need to keep going. We're here to help you make progress and not perfection. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's build your dream one step at a time.
Hello, and welcome back to the Side Hustler Podcast. I'm your host, Carly LeBlanc, and I'm so excited to have you here today because today we're going to be talking all about marketing campaigns. I am a firm believer that having a marketing campaign is essential in business because it just helps you to be able to be more organized online, especially when it comes to marketing your business, when you have a structured plan on whatever it is that you're marketing. I always tell my clients that if you are the type of person that, just post whenever you have a promo and that's just it, that's probably the reason why your content isn't converting, why you're not successful in actually getting people to purchase whatever it is that you're running a promo for, because it's not a well thought out plan. And so I thought that this would be a perfect time while we're at the end of the year. A lot of people are gearing up, preparing for the top of the year. This would be a good opportunity or chance to really dive in on campaigns and getting people to understand what marketing campaigns are. That way, whenever you do have an offer at the top of the year that you're wanting to push to your audience, you actually know what you're doing and you start the year off with a bang. So in this episode, we are going to be breaking down marketing campaigns, why it matters. I'm also going to give you a blueprint map on how to build your own campaign for your business. And then we're going to talk about how to track your campaign, how to create a campaign that essentially is a rinse and repeat, to where you're not starting over every single time you put an offer out. You have the blueprint on what to do, what to track, and how to basically repurpose it again and again and again. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is a marketing campaign and why does it matter? So essentially, a marketing campaign is basically a plan. It's a marketing plan based off of your one goal, your one offer, or your one message. It is a plan of you creating the overarching enchilada, if you will, of whatever it is that you're marketing or that you are trying to get people to buy. So I typically do marketing campaigns for whatever my offer is, whether it's an in-person event, a virtual event, my one-on-one content days, whatever it is, I create a campaign around that offer. So several of you probably have an offer. This is why you're in business. And this is why it's important, is because whenever it comes down to you marketing that thing, you want to be able to have a clear understanding of what your goal is, what you're trying to accomplish, and within what time frame you're trying to achieve that goal. So that's essentially what a marketing campaign is. Now, why are marketing campaigns important? Marketing campaigns are important because they essentially help you keep your marketing organized. Imagine if you are the type of business that offers the same offers year after year after year. You have a marketing campaign where you can basically pull from every single time it's time for you to launch or prepare to launch that offer. You're not starting over from scratch, but it also helps you to build momentum. It helps you to keep your marketing organized, and it makes you feel confident and natural when it comes to actually selling and pushing whatever it is that you're offering in your business. Okay. So this is one reason why I tell people that struggle with marketing. Most of the time people struggle with marketing is because they don't essentially have a marketing campaign. They don't know how many people they're trying to reach. They don't know in what time frame they're trying to reach those people. They don't know what offer they're trying to focus on within that frame. And so that is essentially a part of building a key marketing campaign, okay? And so we're going to dive in into how to build the marketing campaign, but I want you to at least have an idea, because a campaign is typically a word that is a buzzword, essentially, that is used within an industry. But if you are a business, then you should have an idea of what a marketing campaign is. You think about Coca-Cola when it's time for Christmas and you see the holiday bottles with the Santa and the reindeers. That's a marketing campaign. They're trying to get you to buy Coca-Cola because they know you're going to be with your family. And so therefore they're pushing that offer or that product crazy amounts of times within the certain time frame, typically from November 1st to like the end of the year. That's also what you see with brands like Nike or any of the other brands that you see that typically run these like campaigns, like Nike around the Olympics, or you may have James Avery around Mother's Day. Those are typically marketing campaigns that we always see and can identify, but we don't actually think of it as a marketing campaign. So let's get into how to actually build a marketing campaign. So this is going to be my go-to process that I use currently in my business. It's 6 steps. And this is how I build out marketing campaigns for any offers that I'm offering in my business, whether it's my content days, my virtual classes, or even my co-working and content in-person event. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick a campaign goal. A couple of goals that you could think about is how many people you want to actually purchase this item, how many leads you want, how many sales you want, how many email opt-ins you want, how many new followers you want. You want to come up with a clear goal, and you don't want it to just be like, I want to hit, a lot of followers. You want to give it a number. So if I am selling tickets to my co-working and content event, I know that the space allows me to fit about 40 to 45 people in the space. So my goal is to get 45 people in the room for co-working and content. Essentially, for my one-off content days, I know that my capacity is about 5 to 6 now of people that I want to have to service within the month. So if my goal is to get 5 to 6 clients, then that is going to be my campaign goal for my campaign of my content days. And the 45 is going to be the goal for my campaign goal for my co-working and content. Essentially, if you're not selling anything right now, you could also run a brand awareness campaign or an email marketing campaign, or maybe you're trying to get X amount of opt-ins on your email list, or maybe you're trying to build your social media following to X amount of followers within a certain time frame, but you want to have a clear goal. I like to tell people to use a SMART goal because it should be easy for you to measure and to notice if you hit that goal or not. It's not just good enough to say, I want to grow, I want to make money, I want to have more people on my email list. We have to have metrics that we can actually track to see where we are when we are running the campaign and at the end of the campaign. So step 1 is to make sure that you have a campaign goal. However, I will say,
Okay, quick pause. If creating consistent content feels like a full time job on top of your full time job, then you're going to want to hear this. I am excited to bring to you Batch, which is a new marketplace platform that I and my co founder, Lauren, have created, built for entrepreneurs and content creators. This is the marketplace that is going to connect business owners and entrepreneurs who need content with vetted local creators who can help them plan, shoot, and edit their content all in one place. So many of you have asked, when am I going to be able to book you for a content day? When can you come to my city? Do you know anyone in my city that does what you do? And this is going to be the solution. So whether you're an entrepreneur who is tired of struggling to find reliable content creators, photographers, or maybe you're just a creator who's ready to get booked and paid without having to go through the social media marketing of your business, Batch is going to be the platform that bridges that gap. So say for instance, if you're flying to New York for a speaking engagement and you need content there, or even if you have a vendor pop-up event in New Orleans and you need content there, Batch is going to be the creator marketplace that helps you get high quality content to market your brand online. It's designed to help you finally show up online with strategy, with confidence, and create consistent content that converts and actually helps you reach your visibility and revenue goals without the overwhelm. So if you're ready to make content creation communication easier and more intentional, head over to batchcontent.com. That's BATCHED content.com. Join the waitlist so you are the first to know when Batch is launched in your city.
The better campaigns are the ones that have one goal in mind. Now, typically, if you have multiple goals that you're trying to achieve, it can cause your marketing to get a little blurry, a little unorganized, a little chaotic, because the strategy to building a mailing list of 700 people could be different than you trying to get 70 people to your in-person event. Okay. So that's why I say it's always better for you to have a campaign goal, meaning one goal that you focus on and you hone in on, rather than I want to do 5 things at one time, if that makes sense. Okay. So after we have our campaign goal, the next thing we're going to do is we are going to define our campaign message. And when I say your campaign message, I'm talking about what problem are you solving, or why should someone care about whatever it is that you're selling, okay? It's not just good enough to say that I am doing this and I am doing that and yada, 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 because your ideal customer does not care about what you are doing for you. They want to know, how does this thing help me achieve a goal that I have? How does this thing help me to solve a problem that I have? How does this thing help me move the needle forward in my business, in my personal life, or whatever it is that you solve? When it comes to your marketing, you have to get away from selfish marketing and really address the person and the problems that you solve. If you are using a one off where you're talking all about you and your marketing, chances are you will not land your clients. You will not, because marketing is all about the customer and not about you. So, when it comes to your campaign message, you want to make sure that your message lands with the person's challenges that they have or the goals that they're wanting to achieve. And that's how you're going to create your campaign message. So, when I talk about a campaign message, for instance, in my own business, my thing is I help my customers or my clients create content that converts them to clients. What is the problem that they have? They either aren't showing up on social media, or they are, but they're not getting clients. And so my business helps them solve the problem of being able to now have clients in their business that come by way of social media. So when you think about your campaign message, whatever offer it is that you are creating or that you have in your offer suite that you're wanting to push, you need to make sure that you have a campaign message that supports the challenges or the goals of your ideal customer. Another thing that I want to hit on here is that you want to make sure you have one specific person in mind. Typically, when we try to market to 5 different avatars, we're speaking to everyone and no one is landing. We need to have one ideal customer avatar that we're selling our offer to. Is that to say that there are people that are outside of that avatar that could also purchase your object, purchase your product or your service? Absolutely. But when it comes to your marketing, typically you want to focus in on one character avatar that you're selling to. So in my current business model, my main character avatar is a woman entrepreneur, typically between 35 and 55 years old. They are a woman entrepreneur that are either a side hustling entrepreneur or they are a full-time entrepreneur. Either way, they're anywhere between 3 to 5 years in business, and they really need help to getting people into their business by way of social media. They don't know how to market their brands. They don't have time to create content on their own. They don't know how to create content on their own. That's where my offer comes into place and closes the gap between the problem that they have and the solution that they're looking for. Okay, moving along to step number 3, we are going to identify our key content themes. So when we're talking about content themes, we are going to be thinking about the type of content that we can create to attract that person to our business. A couple of the main key themes that I like to use in my marketing campaigns is I like to use a lot of educational content. A lot of educational content because people always want to see if you are the person that could solve the problem that they have. And one way that you can solve the problem that they have is by teaching people, educating people on whatever it is that you do. Another thing that I like to use is social proof content, which is content of people who you already solved X whatever problem for, speaking volume about your business and your process and how amazing it was to work with you. Social proof content is one of the content pieces that a lot of people just fail to actually capitalize on. It's so many different ways that you can use social proof content, whether that be written social proof content or video social proof content. But either way, you want to make sure that you have that social proof content piece in your content theme ecosystem, because it helps you to take a person that is really just acquiring about your business to a person that's actually interested to try to book you for whatever it is that you're selling. So I love to use social proof content. Another piece of content that I like to use is behind the scenes content. And I kind of mix this one with addressing pain points or problems that my ideal customer has. So I will typically use BTS clips of me working with a client, but either voice over or overlay text on those pieces of content. I will address a pain point and position my business or my offer as a solution to that pain point. Either way, you want to make sure that you have a good idea of the type of content that you need to use or create to actually move people along the process of booking your services or your product. So, a couple of other ones that you can use are also myth busters, where you are addressing common myth busters in your business or in your industry, and you are giving your own insight or your own input or your thoughts about that idea. You could also do common objections, which basically are excuses or reasons why someone may not book you, and you address them ahead of time. So, say for instance, if someone's like, I don't have time to, batch content with Cartly. Well, let me tell you why you do, because, there's over, I think there's like, I want to say this was this is actually a good example that I used in one of my marketing. I think I said there's over 70, okay, don't quote me, but like 720 hours in a month. That can't be right. Hold on, let me do the math real quick. So, because I use this in one of my pieces of content and people are like, wow. So there's 24 hours in a day and then there's 30 days typically in a month. Yes. So there's 720 hours in a month. If you spend 3 hours with me to batch your content, that's not even 10% of the hours in a month. And so I use that as a way to address the common objections that people have about batching. But you could also do that in your business as well. The key here is that you want to make sure that you are not just creating random pieces of content, but that your content is strategic. Every piece of content that you post within the time frame of your campaign needs to be strategic. And I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning, but you also want to make sure within your campaign, you give yourself a time frame. This is not an infinite time frame of marketing said offer. You want to make sure that you give yourself a good amount of time, whether I would say anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks or 8 to 10 weeks to market this offer, and have a start date and an end date. So you're able to actually track your efforts, see what works, see what doesn't work, and continue to scale from there. So going back to step number 3, you're going to identify your key content themes. That could be education, pain points, problems, myth busters, common objections, behind the scenes, or social proof. Those are some of the main key concepts that you can choose from. You can implement all of them, you can implement some of them, but either way, you want to make sure that those are a part of your content strategy. Okay. Moving along to step 4 is you are going to want to choose the formats of those pieces of content. So just like you have to choose the content themes, you can essentially have multiple content formats with each pieces of content that you create. So another way that I like to tell my clients to do this is by making a T-chart, and the T-chart will have your ICA, your ideal customer avatar's name at the top, and on one side of the T-chart you're going to have your challenges, and on the other side of the T-chart you're going to have the goals, meaning the challenges of your ICA and the goals of your ICA. You're going to name out at least 3 to 5-ish goals and challenges on each side. When you write out each goal or challenges, now you can create multiple formats for each goal and challenge. So, for example, If one of the challenges that my ICA Brandy has is that she doesn't have time to create content, I could essentially create a talking head about not having time to create content. I can create a carousel graphic where I'm also talking about not having time to create content. And then I can also do a B-roll with overlay text, also addressing her not having time to create content. Then that would give me 3 pieces of content, all based off of one ideal challenge that my customer is having. And then you would just basically rinse and repeat that same system for each challenge and each goal that you have on your T chart. Another couple of ways or things that you can implement are your stories, your IG stories. You can either go live, and you could also turn that piece of content into a marketing email if you're using email marketing in your business, which I highly, 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 highly recommend. But then that would just allow you to show up in multiple places, positioning yourself as the person to solve that problem and offering your business as a solution to said problem. Okay, moving along, we are going to pick a timeline. Now, the timeline, like I said before, is a start date and an end date, but you want to give yourself multiple time frames to play with. What I see with my current business models, because I've tried several, I've tried longer campaigns where it's probably a month and a half. I've tried shorter campaigns where it's like a 10-day window. And it just depends exactly on what the offer is and the price point to determine how long you should run that campaign. Now, there's not really a right or wrong answer with this. However, if you need help identifying what a good timeline would be, always just ask ChatGPT, what do you think would be a good campaign timeline for my offer, which is XYZ, yada, 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 yada. Now, typically for my content day campaigns, if I'm running a campaign for my content days, which I haven't had to do in a long time because my marketing has just been really on autopilot for content days, I typically do a 30-day window for those. It's a higher ticket offer, so I typically need a little bit more time. However, for my co-working and content, I typically do about a 3-week window for that one. And then for any type of virtual setting, I typically do like a 10-day window for that one, just to kind of give you some insight on what I currently do in my current business. Okay. All right. Moving to our last step, which is step number 6, and that is going to be to plan and outline your content. Okay. So, when we talk about your plan of your content, we've already addressed your key themes, we've already addressed your formats, but we need to understand what our call to action is, when are we posting these pieces of content, and what is the order that we're posting these content items, right? And so I typically like to write mine out just some old school pen and paper. And I will say, for instance, if I'm running a campaign that is a month long, that gives me 4 weeks. So I need to, and I typically like to post about 3 to 4 times a week during a campaign. Although lately it has been more than less, but a good rule of thumb is like 3 to 4 times a week, depending on how long your campaign is. So, following this blueprint, if I am posting 3 or 4 times a week and I have a campaign that is 4 weeks long, then I know that I need 16 pieces of content hitting my feed. I want to make sure that I know the time that I'm going to be posting so I can have my content going out on the feed at the same time every single time I'm scheduled to post. But then also, you need to make sure your call to action is intact, meaning what is the next thing that you're wanting your client to do. It's not just good for you to just put content out there and you're not telling them what you want them to do. And I feel like I've told you guys this several times online, but when it comes to your call to action, you need to make sure that you're always ending every piece of content with a call to action, whether that is click the link in my bio, comment this word, like this post, share this post, whatever it is that you want the person to do. So make sure that you are always having a call to action at the end of your content, but you also want to make sure that you're mapping out your content strategically. If you are creating content based off of the blueprint that I was telling you with the T chart, then you could typically post one of each challenge or one of each goal and then rinse and repeat, rather than having all of the challenges going out on the same week, all of the other ones and the other ones and the other ones, if that makes sense. All right. So that is exactly how I create my campaign, essentially, for any type of offers that I create in my business. Now, the next thing that I kind of want to talk to you about is how to track your campaign, because this is what's going to help you to build a marketing ecosystem that you can run on autopilot rather than reinventing the wheel every single time. So typically in my business, I have the same offers that I launch every single year. I have my co-working and content, I have my virtual master classes, and I have my content days. Those are my three offers that I will kind of intertwine throughout the year. If I decide to have another offer that pops up here and there that I'm trying to experiment with, I typically use the same structure of my campaigns as the ones that I already have established. But the good thing about this is that you want to make sure that whenever you're creating this content, you create a content library, because when it's time for you to actually run this campaign again, rather than reinventing the wheel, you could actually rinse and recycle content from before. Meaning, if I have a co-working and content event in May, in July, and now it's time to market the one in November, I can take the content that I created for May and July's co-working and content, recycle it, reuse it to market my clients to the offer again, rather than starting over every single time. Hopefully that makes sense. But in order for you to understand what pieces of content that you should recycle, rinse, and repeat, the first thing you need to do is measure your engagement, measure your results, measure the quality and not the vanity metrics. We don't care about the likes, but what we do care about is watch time. We care about saves. We care about comments. We care about DMs. We care about link clicks. We care about email signups. Those are the metrics that you want to more so focus on. Likes don't really tell us anything because anyone can like the I mean, even your grandparents can like the post. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're buying whatever it is that you're selling. But if someone comments on your post and you send them the link because you have ManyChat set up, and then you go to ManyChat and you see that you've had, 500 people actually comment the word and that have gotten the link that you're sending them to, and of those people, of those 500 people, you see that 200 people actually clicked it and opened it, and then you see 150 people actually purchase. Now you have the metrics to be able to track to see what worked and what didn't. Okay. And so that's why it's important for you to always go back and review your analytics. If you're posting content and not reviewing your analytics, you're doing yourself a disservice, because how do you know what's working? How do you know what's converting? How do you know what's helpful? How do you know what is actually moving the needle in your business? So, a couple of metrics that I want you to save or that I want you to track are post saves, meaning how many people have saved this post, how many people have shared this post, what is the watch time of your content that you're putting out, how many story replies you've gotten, how many link clicks you've gotten, how many email signups you've gotten, and how many DMs you've gotten. Typically, a lot of these you can actually get from your professional dashboard in Instagram, but email signups you will also get from like your email service provider. But you want to make sure that you are tracking them between the time frames that you started your campaign, which is why it's important for you to have a start date and a stop date. So when you go to review your analytics, you want to make sure that you are tracking the metrics within the time frame of the time that you ran the campaign. Okay, moving along to the second thing is you want to track your platform's behavior. What type of content performed the best? What message hit the best? Which content pieces had the highest responses? That's going to give you a key indicator on what type of content you need to amp up and actually continue to create, and then which ones that you can kind of just like let go by the wayside. And so typically for myself, my videos where there's video stuff going on, like whether I'm working with a client, I'm typing on a computer and it's a storyline of clips and I have a voiceover, those are always my highest engaging pieces of content. Talking heads, not so much. But does that mean I'm going to stop shooting talking head content? Absolutely not, because talking head content is essential in a content strategy across the board. Now, what that does tell me is that if I am trying to push out a message or if I'm trying to push out an offer, then that means I should double down on the videos of the highest piece of content that I created. So if my videos where there are behind the scenes clips and I'm doing voiceovers and that's the highest engaging piece of content, then that means that that's the content I should be creating and producing more in my campaign rather than the pieces that are not converting. Now, another thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you're looking at the words that you're using in your content. If it's overlay text, if it's in the caption, you want to make sure you're documenting that too, because if you notice that videos that have overlay text are performing better or getting more engagement, then that means that moving forward with your content, you need to always have overlay text on your videos. Now, if you notice that videos that don't have overlay text aren't getting a lot of engagement, then that means that you need to start adding overlay text to your videos. The next thing that you want to track is your sales and your conversions. How many people bought? How many people inquired? How many leads did you get? Because all of those are valuable points to be able to determine where people fell off of. If you're getting a lot of leads and not a lot of sales, that could mean one or two things. That could one mean that you obviously have great content that is attracting leads to your business. Congratulations, that is amazing. But what it's also telling us is that there's some kind of disconnect that's causing people not to actually pull the trigger and buy whatever it is that you're selling. That could mean your messaging wasn't clear. That could mean that your process was very difficult. That could mean that, maybe the price point wasn't in the price bracket of the people that were inquiring about that service. So whenever it comes down to you actually tracking those metrics, you want to try to dive in and figure out what went wrong, what didn't happen, why didn't this happen, and how can we adjust and make it better. Okay. Another thing that you want to make sure is that you are also doing a end of campaign debrief. Same day the campaign is over while it's fresh on your head. Every single time, last day of campaign, I don't care how busy I am, I will either be in the shower or laying in my bed and I will literally have my phone and I'm writing out every single thing that worked, every single thing that didn't work, everything that I would repeat, what I wouldn't do again, because this is going to give me the data points to continue to make it better and better and better each time. So, for instance, my co-working content that I did in May, that was my first one. It was a free one and it was in an open area in Post Houston. I didn't charge for it because I was kind of just proving my proof of concept. A couple of things that I got after that session was that I had over 60 people sign up for the event, but only half of them actually showed up. That was probably because it was a free event. Another thing that I realized is that I didn't have an exact location of where I was going to be located. And so it made it very difficult for people to find me where I was. So moving forward, I made sure that I had a map in my marketing emails that I sent out to the attendees. And also, I started to implement adding my phone number for them to text if they got lost. Another thing that I wanted to implement was that I saw that there was a lot of people that were attending the events, but maybe they were a little bit shy of really talking about what they did. And so that helped me to create my networking badges, which I create for every single participant that shows up to co-working and content. However, I would not have known that these are ways for me to address and make my event better if I didn't do a end of campaign brief every single time. So at the end of every campaign, you want to make sure that you are keeping a running document of all the things that you did right, all of the things that did not work, all of the things that you would absolutely repeat next time, but then also the things that you would not do again. Okay. All right. So that is the end of this episode. I hope that you found it extremely valuable. I hope that this helps you to give an idea of how to create a marketing campaign for your next offer that you're pushing. This is the perfect time for you to draft it out. And if you found this episode helpful, then make sure you tag me on Instagram at cd.creativeco or at the Side Hustler Podcast. I look forward to hearing and seeing all of your content and all of your pieces that you tag me in. But thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Side Hustler Podcast. I hope you're leaving here today feeling inspired and ready to take your next step. If you love this episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another side hustler who needs to hear it. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram at Carly Dorlin. I'd love to hear about your side hustling journey. Remember, you're doing better than you think, and your dreams are so worth it. Until next time, keep hustling, sis. You got this.